Hey, how y'all doing tonight? I'm gonna be honest with you. I am a little fatigued. I had a rough night last night, had trouble sleeping, which is not unusual for me, but there were some extra added things last night and overnight. So I'm a little bit tired, and there's so often, so many times when I sit down to record these podcast episodes. I might be not feeling well. I might be experiencing heightened anxiety levels, maybe a heightened freeze response where I'm sort of shut down, or my nervous system is trying to shut down, or I'm just didn't get much sleep, and so I'm pushing through. So if I sound a little tired, that's why. But I thank you all for hanging in there with me, and let me be an example to you that God uses willing vessels. We don't have to be perfect. We're not going to be. Um, I don't always say things the way I would like to. There are times when I can barely get my words out or get my words together, as you can probably tell. But the point is, I have a purpose and a mission from God. And as long as He gives me breath in my body and the ability to do it, and He is in me and with me and for me and moving through me, I'm just going to show up as the best version of myself that I can in that moment, and trust that what He has for you is going to reach you at the place of your need. So I didn't mean to start out that way. That's just kind of what was on my heart. And I wanted to share that with you all. And also, I really want to talk about trauma and sort of the confusion around what trauma is. Be honest with you, probably the major challenge that I have faced as a trained trauma recovery coach and life purpose coach is people not understanding the connection between how we are able to function in life and pursue our God-given purpose and passion, and just even accomplish our goals, how that ability to do that is affected by unresolved issues and unresolved trauma. Because unresolved trauma is like a weight. It's like a weight around our necks, holding us down and just really sabotaging our efforts so often. And that has happened to me throughout my life so many times. And the only way that I have been able to sort of grow and get stronger and sort of keep moving forward is by addressing the trauma, by addressing those childhood issues and abuses and challenges that affected me as a child and on into adulthood, by learning to confront the issues that need to be confronted, and learning to stop the habit of running from them or suppressing them or minimizing them and belittling them. And that is what I have found that so many people do. We minimize trauma. One definition of trauma is a deeply distressing or disturbing event. that changes you. It is so deeply distressing and disturbing that it actually changes the way you view yourself, and the way you view the world around you. And even if we just look at this whole COVID era that we've been in, we can say that it has been traumatizing. I mean, I know so many people who are experiencing more anxiety now than they did before 2020. So even if you weren't diagnosed with an anxiety disorder before 2020, or if you weren't experiencing undiagnosed anxiety, many people now since then have been diagnosed or even go undiagnosed, but just know that something is different. The anxiety levels are greater, right? And one of the main things I want to promote with this podcast is one of the best tools that I have found to help with that is journaling. What I love about journaling is that you can write on anything. So it's easily accessible to everyone. It's inexpensive. It's something you can do anywhere. And there's science behind why it helps us, the part of the brain that it triggers, how it helps calm our central nervous systems. I won't get into all of that, but I do want to share with you real quickly how I sort of stepped up my journaling, especially after 2020. And in this, especially that year when everything just sort of went haywire for all of us. I'm just going to read a couple excerpts from my blog, which is called Pulling the Emotional Trigger, Confessions of a Child Abuse Survivor. You can find that on my website, janetlynnboswell.com. Just a couple of excerpts from that, and then I'll be done, and I'll leave it for you to decide if you feel like journaling is something that you can incorporate into your self-care, healing and recovery plan, okay? This is just a portion. I'm going to just read a couple of portions of this blog post that I wrote. And it was about 2020. I said, for several months, I had anxiety dreams nearly every night. These are the dreams where my safety is threatened by a seemingly undefeatable enemy. And no matter what I do, this quote unquote person gets the upper hand, while I am a helpless victim. Needless to say, I didn't get much sleep during those early months of 2020. Because I knew that these traumatic events were triggering trauma responses, I also knew I had to become more intentional about the way I chose to respond to these unprecedented challenges. I had to step up my coping techniques more than ever. That's when journaling took on a whole new meaning for me. And if you know me and how I feel about journaling, you know that's saying a lot. I began to journal even more frequently as a way to keep my challenging thoughts and emotions from building up, helping me to routinely return to a centered place while navigating the constant upheaval in my life. And back then, especially, I was considered an essential worker in the full-time job that I had. And so my workload felt like it tripled overnight when all of that hit and happened. So my anxiety levels were definitely heightened. And then old patterns, old emotional memory would be triggered and would kick in from the past, but they were triggered by the current events, because that's what happens, right? So even if you're not in a space where you were 10, 20, 30 years ago, there is still, just like your body has memory, your emotions have memory. There is a pattern that is set up. There's a thought pattern. There is an emotional pattern that has been set up inside of you that gets triggered when you are in stressful and or traumatizing situations. And then I wrote, a major challenge was how to honestly acknowledge my pain, anger, anxiety, and resentment without focusing all my energy on these emotions. So how do I acknowledge them and deal with them without being carried away by them because I still had stuff to do, right? I needed to analyze and work through them so that I could focus more energy on feeling grateful, learning contentment, and fulfilling my purpose in all circumstances. Through journaling, I began to ponder how the biblical apostle Paul could write the phrase, quote, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances, end quote, while he was sitting in prison, having been incarcerated by the Roman Emperor Nero just for sharing the gospel. A portion of one of my journal entries went something like this. How did Paul learn to be content in prison? How do I adapt and keep moving? And then I wrote, maybe saying, I don't love these circumstances, whatever the circumstances are, but I do love God. Maybe that's being content, or at least the beginning of contentment. What I want you to see from this is that it's not about perfection, me being perfect, my life being perfect. It's not about me denying or minimizing or avoiding the trauma's effects on me and how I move through the world, even how I show up in the world. It's about being realistic about it, but still being able to have a positive lens at the same time. I guess what I'm saying is, I don't believe that being real about traumatic events that have happened to us and having an attitude of gratitude are mutually exclusive. I feel like we can be honest about one while still embracing the other, while still being truthful and realistic. So trauma is not always this big horrible thing, or these big horrible things that, like what happened to me, like childhood sexual abuse and assault, and emotional and psychological abuse and abandonment and neglect and all of that stuff. Trauma can be caused by the loss of a loved one, the loss of a relationship, the loss of a job. Trauma can be caused by a terrible accident, let's say. A global pandemic. So many things can be traumatizing to us, and we don't have to deny it. We don't have to lie about it. It doesn't mean that we are not walking by faith. It doesn't mean that we are not developing attitudes of gratitude and positive perspectives. It just means that we are being honest and real. And I believe that that's where God can and will meet us, in that place. So that's all I wanted to share with you tonight. I'm not always 100%. Maybe I'm never 100%. And maybe some days I am less than 50%. I feel like that today. But let's just keep showing up. Let's keep being honest. Let's keep being real. And let's just keep showing up. Let's keep doing the work. And I recommend journaling as one of the tools in your toolbox to help with healing and recovery, self-care, and soul care. All right? That's all I want to say about that. Ladies, make sure you save the date for the Overflow Life Women's Empowerment Conference that is coming on May 16th and May 17th of 2025. This will be an in-person conference, and it's going to be so amazing, so much fun, so inspiring, so encouraging, and so empowering. But seating is limited, so if you're not already on my mailing list, I'll put the link in the bio or in the description. Make sure you sign up so that when registration opens up, you can be one of the first to register. And I will see you all next time. Take care. I love you.